Take a moment and think of a big goal you want to achieve, or a big dream you want to realize, or big change you want to make. A goal that's big enough that if you were to achieve it, you're pretty sure it would feel amazing. Maybe your goal is to lose some weight and take control of your health, or better save for retirement while you still travel the world. In your career, perhaps you've dreamed of writing a book, building your own business, or becoming an invincible leader that inspires others to succeed. Do you have a big goal in mind? Good. Now that I have you all thinking sufficiently big, I'm going to ask you to think sufficiently small. Because I have learned that the secret to accomplishing every big goal is to simply do something small. Even something as small as, say, drinking a glass of water. Just over 2 years ago, some friends invited me to go rock climbing. It was my very first time, and the spot they chose was this scary-looking cliff high up on the side of a mountain. I remember standing there with my friends, looking up this massive column of slippery rock, thinking, I really need to get some new friends. I kept pulling the knot on my safety rope tighter, and I must have asked my friend Tom 14 times, now, you're sure this thing will hold? After Tom's patient reassurance, and despite the little voice in my head begging me to stay put, I nervously began to climb. Just to give you an idea of what I was feeling, have you ever climbed to the top of a really tall ladder? Maybe you were working on a project around the house, like cleaning or painting or hanging decorations. If so, did you get at all afraid as you climbed to the top? Imagine if that ladder was pointed straight up, was 7 stories tall on the side of a mountain, and most of the rungs were as slippery as ice. Would you be at all afraid then? Me too! Move after shaky move, I worked my way higher and higher and higher. After lots of sweating, lots of struggling, and even some silent sobbing, I safely reached the top. And in that moment, all of my fear was gone, and I felt amazing. I immediately wanted to climb something higher. That climb was the culmination of years of hard work at the gym, which meant that for me, I had just accomplished a very big goal. When it comes to your very big goals, are you accomplishing them? Oftentimes, we don't. For example, raise your hand if you have ever made a New Year's resolution. Ever in your life have you made a New Year's resolution? Me too. And yet, a University of Scranton survey found that of those of us that make resolutions, only 8% stick it out long enough to achieve the goal. Well, why is that? Why don't we achieve every big goal? Some might say, well, it's because I make my goals too big. But that's not it. Most of the time, we make our goals too small. We routinely limit what we're capable of because we don't yet believe we can do something so big. No. The problem with us not accomplishing every big goal we want to accomplish isn't that we make our goals too big, it's that we make the steps to achieve those goals too big. Of course, I'm not the first person to say that. We've all heard the expressions, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Or, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. But what do those even mean? I have no plans to walk 1,000 miles or eat an elephant, do you? And so, like many of you, in my past, I would make big goals with the best of intentions and then not always follow through. That was until I discovered the power of small steps. Unfortunately, it came at a time when small steps in my life were all I could take. 7 years ago, I was not in great shape. I was more than 20 pounds overweight. My diet was embarrassing. I avoided exercise. I always thought, I'm just fine, so why change? That was until after a routine surgery. The surgery itself went fine, but due in part to my not taking better care of myself, I didn't heal. And 1 week after the surgery, I suffered a major complication. I started bleeding a lot. I was rushed to the emergency room. They immediately started transfusing blood back into my body, but I was losing fluid faster than they could put it in. Between the transfusion and my own blood, the doctors estimate in less than an hour, I lost the equivalent of 80% of my blood. With no warning whatsoever, I had gone from just fine to just about dead. Finally, I was hurried into the operating room. 5 hours later, when I woke up, I knew I was lucky to be alive. I also knew I wanted to make big changes in my health. But where to begin? I had no idea. After what had just happened, I could hardly move. And so, one morning, a few weeks after coming home from the hospital, I drank a glass of water. That's it. Nothing more. I had read in Men's Health that drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning jumpstarts your metabolism, makes you feel full. I thought, I probably can't screw up a glass of water. So I did that. First thing in the morning, I started to drink a full glass of water. That is the only change I made. After about a month of this, I was standing in my kitchen, basking in the glow of having successfully drank a glass of water, when I thought, you're feeling a little better. You're just standing here. Why don't you try some exercise? So I did a few sit-ups and then added those to my morning routine. And over the next several months, with no plan whatsoever, as I felt stronger and stronger, I added crunches, and then added push-ups, and eventually added planks. To go along with the exercise, I started making small, continuous changes to my diet. I replaced my breakfast of Pop-Tarts and energy drinks with healthy smoothies and lots of water. I started losing weight, and I felt amazing. To keep challenging myself, over time, I moved my workouts from the basement to the gym across the street, where sometime later, I made some new friends who one day invited me to go rock climbing. I fell in love with climbing, partly because it is a sport based entirely on taking small steps. I put my left toe here, and then I reach up with my right thumb and press against this rock, and then I lean out to the left. To be successful, a climber doesn't think about the big goal of reaching the top. A climber focuses on successfully climbing 1 inch. Then all you have to do is repeat that inch 10,000 times without falling. Well, you can do that, right? Since that first day, I have now climbed hundreds of times, including last summer when my daughter Cassidy and I climbed to the tops of 2 mountains in Colorado over 14,000 feet. And I keep setting my climbing goals higher. At the same time, I started doing research into finding out just what makes these small steps work. One great example I found was the book Small Move, Big Change by Carolyn Arnold. In this book, Carolyn explains that in our brains, we have a very special cluster of 4 different types of neurons or brain functions. The first 2 types of neurons in this cluster control our active initiative and our willpower. Essentially, if we take action on something, these 2 types of neurons helped us do it. But what's so special is that our action neurons share that cluster with our problem-solving and decision-making functions. Because they're clustered together, they activate, enhance, and build on each other. And what that means for you and me is that when we take action, even small action, we are not only activating the very resources we need to want to take more action, but to also help us figure out what's the best action to take next. It is the perfect combination for success. Think of it as the peanut butter and jelly of brain science, and you can eat all you want. You just have to get started, which you can do right now. Do you want to try out the power of small steps yourself? Yes. All right, I'm so happy you said that. Thank you. Fortunately, small steps don't require that you have either climbed a mountain or lost most of your blood. Anyone can do them. You can start anytime. First, decide on the big goal you want to go after. Maybe it's the goal you thought of earlier, or you think of something else. Once you have the big goal locked in, then figure out something you can do which should move you towards your goal. Decide on any small step you can take. How do you know if it's small enough? Well, try it out for 1 week. If after 1 week you're still feeling anxious as to whether you can keep it up, try something smaller. Oh, and don't waste time trying to figure out the perfect first step. Always remember, the perfect first step is the one you take. After you have a step that's small enough that you're comfortable with, it's just a matter of keeping it up until it becomes dependable. And to help with that, James Clear, who's author of the book Atomic Habits, recommends the 3 R's of making habits stick: reminder, routine, and reward. First, reminder. Don't count on memory to take a new step. Set reminders on your phone or hang up sticky notes. For me, I plastered sticky notes all over my bathroom mirror that said, "Did you drink your water yet?" And yes, they sounded that mean. Second, routine. The more routine we make a step, the more likely it is to work. So try to do it at the same time every day. Try not to miss. If you do miss a day or 2 or 3, then shake it off and get right back at it. For me, I found I needed to do my workouts first thing in the morning. I wake up, gym clothes in the bathroom, water glass by the sink. Same thing every day. And finally, reward. When we do something, even small somethings, we feel a sense of satisfaction. Really celebrate that. Well, look at me, drinking a glass of water. Don't wait for the big goal. It's the small steps you're after, so celebrate those little wins. Once the step becomes dependable, it's time for a new step. Step by step, over time, you can accomplish any big goal. And when you do, it will give your self-confidence a wonderful boost. It can also help you thrive in your career. In my own career as a sales and leadership consultant, I have worked with leaders from across many industries. Time and time again, those leaders talk about the need for today's employee to have a mindset of continuous growth in both your career and your personal life. The reality is, if you're not doing your own form of climbing in your life, you may find you're falling behind. But that's not going to happen because of the power of small steps makes anything achievable. Excited about what I was seeing in my physical health, I started using small steps towards other personal and career goals. For example, my wife and I started making small, continuous changes to the way we saved our money. First, we cut way back on the number of times we ate out at restaurants, all the way until we were able to set a standard to pay off our credit cards at the end of every month. And as a result, we are now better saving for retirement, while we've recently traveled to Italy, the Caribbean, Mexico, and Wisconsin. In my career, I am using small steps to write a book, build my own business, and develop invincible leaders who inspire others to succeed. All of that by drinking a glass of water. Okay, so I had to do a little bit more than drink a glass of water, but my process always starts the same. Let's face it, sometimes our big goals can feel as daunting as climbing a mountain, right? And yet, we are infinitely capable of taking on goals that right now may seem even bigger than a mountain. Today alone, you are going to hear incredible ideas that will push you to grow. And now you know how to do so. To live your invincible life, I challenge you to immediately, today, commit to achieving one big goal. The bigger, the better, with absolutely no idea as to how you're going to get it done. Because the answer to the question, now, how am I going to do this, is start small. This one's for you.